Awesome.
All right, welcome everybody to Psychoturks Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stewart, joined by my friendly co-host, as always, Chris Fanavana. Chris,
Hey,
good to see you,
everybody.
man.
Good to
Yep.
see you.
And today's a cool one. We've got Jess Hana joining us, and she's an Instagram influencer, YouTuber. She's got all kinds of cool stuff, fun content. Jess Hana, welcome to the podcast.
Wow. Thanks. Thank you guys for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious with your content, yeah. So were you a theater kid?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good question. And
Uh-huh.
it's funny, I've been on a few podcasts. No one's asked me this yet. I was not a theater kid. But I was a student council kid,
Okay.
which is kind of funny. But I also, you know how they have in high school they do senior superlatives and they you vote on like most likely to rob a
Hmm.
bank or I don't know, most likely I was voted most likely to be rich and famous, and I'm still working on the rich part. I guess the Instagram,
Yeah.
the internet fame in a very small niche of the world, I guess, is I'm getting there, I guess, is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I never took theater. I took one improv class in my 20s, like a workshop, and that was it. So
Okay. Well,
Nice.
I mean, the content's so fun.
thank you.
Yeah, it's like I don't know about you, but like sometimes I'll be scrolling and like you kind of pass somebody, but whenever yours comes on, it's like, oh, got to get the volume
Aw,
up. I want to see what's
thank
going on
you.
here. Yeah,
Yes.
That's so nice.
it's
That's so
really fun.
nice. I
Yeah. So
appreciate
we
that. Yeah.
usually like to start off with finding out like how did you get into bikes? When did it start for you?
Mm. Oh yeah. I've been riding bikes since I was a little kid. I asked Santa for a mountain bike when I was, maybe 5 or 6 years old. The kid down the street from me, like one of my childhood best friends, he got a mountain bike, which I think at the time just meant it had gears. It wasn't like a fancy mountain bike by any means.
Uh-huh.
But I really wanted that kind of bike. And instead, Santa gave me like a coaster brake, banana seat, like streamer adorned kind of bike.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just rode a bike as a kid. Like I lived on a dirt road, so a lot of like, ripping around on dirt roads and stuff, but really didn't get into mountain biking until 2012, 2011, 2012 is when I
Okay.
first started.
Yeah.
And I was dating a guy at the time who was a mountain biker, and I wanted to spend time with him. And I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I'm not sure if either of you've ridden much in Pennsylvania, but it's very rooty, very rocky. It was not fun. It was
Mhm.
certainly not love at first ride. It was pretty terrible actually. But I think there was something that kept me coming back. The boyfriend at the time, he had already been riding 10 plus years. So, he had all this experience, and he would ride his single speed. And
Oh,
so
right.
I would be on, I borrowed a bike from one of his buddies that was two sizes too large for me. It was like a giant hardtail.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything at the time. I didn't even know which brake was which, and I was falling and going over the bars all the time. And I never saw anybody else riding because I would ride with him a lot. And so, I never saw anyone get over a certain route section or whatever. So anyway, I'd be walking a lot. It was a lot of walking at that time. But yeah, that's how I started. I've come a long
Yeah.
way. But
Well, it's
yeah.
pretty cool that you're stuck with it because
Mm,
I know,
yeah.
like, I tried to get my wife into mountain biking.
Mm,
And,
yep.
we've been married 35 years and I gave up long ago. But I was definitely
Mm,
really encouraging and wouldn't take her on the technical stuff. And I would like hand select all these trails that were just going to be just, in my mind, just right. And
yeah.
she was
Still
miserable, didn't really get it, and
didn't work.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
You know, it's not, I think that it's because and I feel like this is a common story. A lot of people have this story, and I hear it from a lot of women. They don't want, even if it's like the best scenario. I
Yeah.
think it's really challenging. I actually feel like I didn't fall in love with mountain biking until I rode with other women like I that I enjoyed riding with. And like that's probably honestly how I kept why I kept going or why I kept doing it is I finally met a group of people, mostly women, that I could see them ride, we could session things. But yeah, it's like it's hard like when you're learning and one partner's really into it and the other one's just getting into it. It's such a challenge. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
I take a lot of verbal abuse with my wife sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Famously, my wife says that I was trying to kill her on a mountain bike
Mm.
ride. And this was like a
You
ride that
know,
picked out that was supposed to be nice and easy,
tried to kill
Yeah.
her.
But I was trying to kill her.
I just said this yesterday. I was riding and it was more for like do you both know Colorado Kid?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so Joe is a friend, and we're here in California for a few months, and it was his birthday the other day, and it was my husband's birthday a few days before that, and it's been rainy here in NorCal, like,
Yeah.
and yesterday was the only break in the weather, and so we met up and rode Granite Bay. It was the first time in a long time where I felt like I hadn't ridden in a few weeks because of the move. We were just so busy. I
Hmm.
almost felt like I was like relearning again and dusting off the cobwebs. And Joe is like, yeah, yeah, we'll do a warm up. We're going to do a warm up. And then we immediately go from like very mellow to like these double black diamond lines, like rock roll steeps with like, little room for error. And I was, it was just funny. So I literally was like, you're trying to kill me. So still, even now, people are trying to kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you show up to a ride and it's like, oh, it's a gentleman's pace, it's like, no, it's not.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you've seen all that. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep,
Yeah. So, okay. So you grew up in Pennsylvania. I did
yep.
spend some time in Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
I worked for Cannondale for a period of time, long time ago,
Hmm.
like 97. It's a long time ago.
Nice. Yeah,
But I went there for training, Bedford, Pennsylvania. Were
yeah,
you near
yeah.
Bedford at all?
No, I was kind of closer to Scranton,
Oh,
the
okay.
Electric City.
Yeah.
So yeah, I that's kind of where I learned to ride was the Scranton area, so northeastern PA. And
Okay.
then, I mean, Bedford's not that far from there, but
Hmm.
and then I lived in Ithaca, New York for about 7 years, and that's kind of where I met my group of friends that I started riding with, and they also very similar, rocky, rooty, mostly rooty, wet.
Yeah.
Have to wait out the mud seasons, and then your riding season so short. So but yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So,
so
and then I saw in our communications, you were saying that you were moving from Bentonville. Now, I know a lot of people are
yes,
moving to Bentonville,
yeah. So we're
right?
like,
So it seems I was like,
word got
what?
out.
Yeah. So, how long were you in
Yeah.
Bentonville? And then what were some of the
Mhm.
decisions that led you to want to leave?
Yeah, we were there about 3.5 years, and before that, Tony and I were living in Idaho. We rented a place outside of Boise, and we really wanted to buy a house. And at the time, it was COVID times.
Hmm.
And we, at the time, it's so funny because now in retrospect, we're like, now that all those prices were not that expensive, like
Hmm.
now it's like, whoa. But we were like, where's somewhere affordable that has mountain biking a majority of the year. You can ride all year round. That was the other thing, right? Like coming from the East Coast where, every season you either have to travel over the winter if you want to ride, or you're doing snow sports or something, right? And I'm pretty mediocre when it comes to snow sports. So, you know, Tony and I had talked and we were like, well, let's start talking about where we want to go. And I had said to him, because I used to live in an RV for a few years and I'd been through Bentonville in like 2017, 2018, and I saw how much was being developed there. And I saw how I just knew it was going to keep growing, like mountain biking right there. And so I had said to Tony, well, what about Arkansas? And he's like, no. And I said, well, wait, hear me out.
Mhm.
Like immediately he was like, no way. I was like, well, just listen, hear me out. And I kind of shared all these articles about, like all the trails that are being built. I think there was a statistic from a few years ago where they were building 2 miles of trail a week, which is kind of crazy,
Yeah.
and it's also affordable. At the time it was more affordable, and it also we had access to trails like and could ride most of the year. And so, yeah, we bought a house sight unseen, like a fixer upper that, and I'm not saying that's a good idea by any
Uh-huh.
means.
Uh-huh.
But
I
that's what
can
we
relate.
did. Yeah.
I,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's funny because we're in the process of selling it right now and it's still not done. Like a lot has been done. We did a lot to it, but we preferred to be mountain biking. So a lot of work didn't
Yes.
get done on the house. Yeah, so the biggest things I think for us living there and what led us to move away, because I mean we made some really great friends there. It was awesome. The trails are super fun. Uh, the summers are not my favorite. It is very hot, very humid in the summers. The ticks, also not my favorite. Tony and I
Mhm.
both have that tick. We both got bit by a Lone Star tick
Okay.
and now have that alpha gal. I don't know if you are familiar with alpha gal syndrome, but it's like
Uh-uh.
essentially we're allergic now to red meat. So we can't have like, which we don't
Oh,
Really?
eat a lot of anyway, but like now we're in California, we want to go have In-N-Out. We can't have In-N-Out. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we're allergic to it.
wow.
Yeah, it
So
could go
what,
away over time, but yeah,
okay. I was going to say, what kind of reaction does it cause?
it's so because the allergy is you're essentially allergic to a carbohydrate and not a protein, so it's a delayed reaction. So it was really hard to diagnose. And weirdly, a lot of people have it in
Hmm.
Arkansas and surrounding area because it's very prevalent there.
Yeah.
So the allergist there kind of knew right away when I had told her all the symptoms, and then yeah, they do blood work and yeah, they show your levels. You have these levels of alpha gal, and it's just a naturally occurring sugar molecule that exists in mammalian meat, except for humans. We don't have it, so when we're exposed to it, then we form this allergy. The reactions are weird, and like I said, they're delayed. For me, it's either like a full body rash, full body hives. And the first time that ever happened to me was at Sea Otter a couple years ago.
Oh my
I
gosh.
thought I had brushed up against some poison oak. That's what's popular right out there. Yeah, like
Yeah.
poison oak,
Yeah.
because I'd never had it before. So I was like, clearly this is poison oak or something, right? But Tony was like, that's not poison oak. And then one other time, my lips swelled up really big. It looked like I had like lip injection done. A couple of
Uh-huh.
my friends were like, people pay big money for that. You might not. I don't see what's wrong here. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
what do you mean? My lips were like huge. So for me, there's a lot of like hives and swelling, and so Tony has it too, and for him, it's all GI
Oh
stuff.
wow.
Oh,
So yeah, it's
Right.
not fun. Yeah.
Man,
So
ticks are gnarly.
mhm,
I
the
don't know. Do
worst.
you remember Juliana Furtado? She's like
Yeah.
a mountain bike legend,
I
right?
mean, yeah,
Yeah,
like
and
Juliana.
Juliana bikes,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah, well, Juliana, she got Lyme disease, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what I'm not sure if that's what ended her career, but it certainly it was towards the end of her career where she got it, and then yeah,
Terrible.
probably
Yeah,
was a
ticks
big
are the
contributing
worst.
factor in it.
I
Yeah.
had a
yeah.
segment. I had a segment on Instagram. I only did a couple of videos, but they were TikToks,
Oh, okay.
not to be confused with TikTok.
Tick talks. Yeah.
TikToks. TikToks.
That's
Uh,
They're
great.
talks about ticks. And I was
yes.
trying to I was like trying to get more information out there just about like tick removal or well, tick prevention, like tick bite prevention, tick removal. Because you'll
Yeah.
hear all sorts of things of like how to remove them, like, yeah, burn them off and like do like
Right.
do some crazy. You're like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a couple videos I put out about yeah, they were called TikToks.
Yeah.
So
Well, we have
I
ticks
see that.
here. We have a lot of ticks
yeah.
here, but Lyme disease and some of the other,
Mm,
it's really not that big of a
that's
problem
good.
here.
Yeah.
But boy,
Yeah.
that's well, I guess you're fortunate in a way that it wasn't Lyme disease because what we have
Yes.
now, I mean, you
Yes.
can't have red meat, but hey. That's not all.
Yeah, it honestly, and it could go away, after some time. Really, it's just watching out for anything that has like gelatin or like collagen that's
Hmm.
like from bovine, So there's like little things that you don't think of that you're like, oh yeah, I can't have that. I might have a reaction. So, but honestly, yeah, I would take it over. Lime is just awful. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Sounds
ticks are the
like
worst.
sounds like there's a lot of road hazards. Like, oh, I can't eat that. That's got that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But honestly, it's yeah. I mean, so that was kind of one of the contributing factors of I'm just tired of pulling ticks off of myself every summer, or like really it starts in the spring and can go into the fall.
Hmm.
Um, I honestly preferred riding in Bentonville like late fall into winter was fine. It's very mild there. You'll get a couple cold snaps,
Hmm.
but it's pretty nice for the most part, like pretty mild. It will get cold, but not that cold. And the ground really, there's no freeze thaw cycle, so it's pretty good to ride there. So yeah,
Yeah.
that, and then it does feel very landlocked. I
Hmm.
think I'm from the East Coast where, you can really bop around a lot of places, and Tony's from California. So I think we're just used to having access to a lot of different things, bigger cities. And so that was kind of one of the bigger reasons too, just, like feeling really landlocked there. And
Yeah.
um, yeah,
So you're
when
in,
did you guys when did you guys land in the Sacramento Valley?
we just got here 10 days ago. Yeah.
Oh, so super
Yeah, but
fresh.
Tony's lived here before. Tony's lived in Sac. His family's from Manteca, like they're from the Valley originally.
okay.
And we were here for 2 months last winter to escape. Like we escaped Arkansas for 2 months last year. So yeah, it's a good area. We like it. It's rainy right now though, like pretty rainy.
Yeah.
But not too bad.
Pretty
Yeah, well,
cold too.
hopefully,
A little cold. A little
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah. I always ride in the mornings and it's like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh, it's been like 35 degrees in the morning. It's
yeah.
terrible, you know? Yeah.
Chilly.
have
Or
have you
yeah.
guys made it up to Nevada City yet? I know that's kind of close to you, so.
Last year, yes, and it was awesome. That place is so cool. And when we were looking for rentals, so we're just in a furnished rental for now for a couple months, and so when we were looking, and there aren't many furnished rentals,
Yeah.
so it was hard to find something. So we just kind of expanded the radius of just like where could we go? We were looking Auburn, Placerville. We were even looking Nevada City, Grass Valley area.
Hmm.
But yeah, the riding out there was super exciting. I think next time e-bike because do you know the climb, the
Oh
like
yeah.
26 switchback climb?
Yeah, yeah. Is that like
Yeah, I think I had
by
one of those in
Permagrin?
me. Yes, yes. I did one and I was like, cool. Or no, I might have done it. I might have done it twice. And I
Hmm.
was like, I'm good now. But if I had an
Yeah,
e-bike, I would have done that all day. That was so
yeah,
fun. So
yeah,
fun.
yeah. That's where I'm living now, is in Nevada City. So
Oh,
that's
that's
like
awesome.
super close.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's your home turf.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
so is there snow there right now? Or
No, no. I think it
no?
got down to
Okay.
5,000 feet, so I think we're still like
Okay.
1,000 or 1,500 feet away from snow. But it'll
Okay.
be
Yeah.
here. It'll be here for sure.
Yeah. Because I remember people saying it was uh quite interesting that last year we were riding Nevada City and it was January, I think, and still people could ride.
Yeah.
Because it kind of was a later snowfall.
Right. We don't like February,
Mhm.
March for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely get some snow. But
Okay.
it rains
Nice.
so much up here. So it's
Mm,
pretty wet right now.
yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are in NorCal for a period of time. Have
Yeah.
you figured out where you're gonna ultimately land?
Yes and no. Well, so it's funny because we go all over the place. We've been thinking all over the place, but we're actually in the process of looking in Prescott, Arizona. That's kind
Oh,
of where
okay.
I've spent a lot of time there in the past before, and um, yeah, I like the sunshine. So I think we're looking in that area, but nothing official yet. So, but it is awesome. I don't know if you've ridden there, but it's
Yeah.
definitely one of my favorite places to ride.
I haven't done Prescott. I was in Tucson, did some riding in
Mm,
Tucson. It was really fun. But
yeah.
yeah, I haven't been, Scottsdale. I know there's like good riding there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Yeah, maybe someday, it's not
Yeah,
that far away.
come out and
It-
visit. It's
it-
I think it's only a little over an hour from Sedona. Have you ridden Sedona?
no, I have not.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Have you
Yeah,
done
there's
that
some cool
that
stuff.
white line trail?
No,
That seems so
no.
crazy to me, you know?
It's just like, it's not something I'm I've seen people ride it. Like I've
Yes,
been there when I've seen people do it and I think it just yeah, I don't know, the consequence too high and
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I rely on my comedic personality, not my riding skills, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the
Uh,
one good thing about what I do is I don't have to, the pressure isn't there, even though I do enjoy riding my bike and I like riding at a certain level and I do have a coaching background and it's
hmm.
just like, also it's kind of nice that I just rely on like comedy. And
Yeah.
so if I'm injured or if I want to take a little break off the bike for a little while, it's like I don't know how athletes do it. That's amazing, that they
Yeah.
do it, but I'm happy that I can not have to put that pressure on my riding.
Yeah. Well, the comedy's like the ultimate equalizer, right? No matter where
Yes.
you can make somebody laugh, it's over. No matter if
Yep.
they're type A wanting to go kill the mountain or
Exactly.
whatever, you can make
Yeah.
them laugh. Oh, I'm going to take a break
Exactly.
now. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, super
Exactly.
cool. Well, okay, so
Mhm.
you mountain biking and
Mhm.
when does the idea come to you about like trying to did you just like have some success just randomly and then thought like,
Mhm.
hey, maybe I could do this and make this work for me? How
Yeah,
did it start?
the content, so I went to school for graphic design. That's what my degree is in. And I've worked for, ad agencies and a couple different like tech companies over you know, before I did content. So like probably like 10 to 13 years of that. And
Okay.
then that's very specific, 10 to 13. A lot of freelance design stuff too, always on the side, like making logos or things like that for friends and whatnot. But I was getting really burnt out looking at a computer screen all day, because, as a graphic designer or web designer, you're just essentially looking at a screen. And
Hmm.
so when we moved to Bentonville, the company that I had been working for actually got acquired by another company. And I kind of used that time to basically, I didn't move on with the new company. I just took my exit and, made some money from that, which was really nice.
Hmm.
And so it gave me some financial backing to take some time off of work. So I took 6 months off and that's when we were living in Bentonville. And so a lot of that money, I was like, okay, I actually wanted to start, which is kind of funny. I don't know why we bought this fixer upper and I'm like, I'm going to make a blog. I'm going to a vlog blog about fixing
Uh,
up this house. Turns
yep.
out we hated it. We hated doing work to the house. It was awful. We'd rather be riding our bikes. So I was like, I'm just gonna put funny video, like make a funny video about why we're essentially like, I think one of my first videos that went viral was how to afford a high-end mountain bike. And it was essentially deprioritizing everything else in your
Uh-huh.
life, like your house. So I literally just went around filming like our house
Uh-huh.
and like we didn't have a curtain. We had a sheet that we like duct taped up. Like we didn't have a curtain. We had like instead of coasters, we like stole those little floor tile samples from Home
Uh,
Depot, and that was like a
uh-huh.
coaster, So like literally I made this whole video and
Yes.
it was just for fun, it was just for fun. And it went viral. And I remember Pink Bike shared it and I was like, wow, Pink Bike shared, like that's exciting. And
Yeah.
so that is kind of like what started. Plus, I was getting back into mountain bike coaching when I lived in Bentonville. I noticed a lot of through COVID, I think a lot of people got into mountain biking. So there were a lot of newer riders to the
Hmm.
sport. And there's a women's organization in Bentonville that was like, hey, like we need higher level coaches. You seem like you know what you're doing. Like, do you think you can help, coach, do clinics and coach these women? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I think also being back in that coaching mindset, but also, with coaching, you're having to remember what it's like to be a beginner too, and look
Yeah.
at things from your student's perspective and try to, Anyway, so I think that all it was like a perfect storm of being in the right place at the right time, but also kind of like putting myself in luck's way a little bit and just putting stuff out there. And then when I saw things were picking up, so I wasn't really like I had a couple videos that did really well, and I was like, man, maybe I'll just keep making videos. I have this time, because coaching
Hmm.
wasn't super full time or anything. It was, very sporadic. And so I would make these videos, put them out there, and then yeah, after I don't know I can't remember exactly at what point I was like, man, maybe this is my job. It
Yeah.
was uh maybe maybe a year into it, I think I was kind of like, okay, like, brands were approaching me. Live actually was the first bike brand that reached out and they had asked. And at the time, I didn't know what to charge. I was like, I don't know. And they're like, we'll send
Sure.
you a bike. And I was like, what? All
Yeah.
excited and yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. And so, yeah, I did a series of videos for Live and, then like, brands. So I think I started to realize it when brands started reaching out and they wanted to work with me. And I was like, okay, I need to like formalize this process. And coming from a design background and doing a lot of freelance design, like I already kind of knew how to create proposals and kind of pitch, what I think something might cost, but it was just now applying it to like video concept and like, filming and editing and all that stuff. So it wasn't what I set out to do,
Hmm.
but it is now what I do.
Yeah.
So, and it's fun. It comes with its challenges for sure. It's definitely challenging, but it's super fun.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I mean, the freedom that affords,
Hmm.
it's pretty cool. It's freedom in one sense, but it's also maybe a little bit of a trap in another sense, right? Are you always like when you're on the bike or if you're just traveling around,
Mm.
are you always just
Thinking of
workshopping
ideas.
ideas and coming up
Hmm.
with because you have a lot of content, right? And it's like I just
Yeah.
wonder where does all that come from? Is it you see something? What inspires you? I guess is the question.
Yeah, just experience, personal experience, or yeah, talking with friends after a ride or during a ride.
Hmm.
I love just like tapping into that the relatability part, just like knowing that people can relate to those things, whether it's like the moments leading up to a ride. Um yeah, I don't know. The ideas, and it's funny because yesterday after a ride with Joe, we went to this little sandwich shop that had beers on tap, and Joe and I are just sitting there and we're just going back and forth, ideas, ideas, ideas. Poor Tony's just like drinking his beer because, it is. It's like it's almost hard to turn off because it's yeah, the ideas just get flowing, and I think
Hmm.
when you get content creators together, everyone's like workshopping ideas and things like that, or what do you think about this, or oh, I wanted to do a video like this. But yeah, I think the ideas, I think because just this last year I actually was diagnosed with ADHD, like officially,
Hmm.
which explains a lot. It doesn't give me excuse, but it explains a lot. And I think my brain that's just how it works. Now, when it comes time to sit down and focus on editing, or when it comes time to like, okay, it's film day, those are the more challenging times, right? So,
Oh, okay.
so yeah, the ideas are aplenty. It's the execution of the ideas, or and I luckily enough with some of the brands that I've worked with I've been able to budget, and that's part of the budget too, is I'll say like sometimes I hire people to help me film, sometimes I hire people to help me edit because I realize like my strengths are in other areas. And as much as I enjoy the edit at times, it's nice to be able to outsource some of that stuff. Granted, I
Hmm.
do most of my own editing, but there's a couple like YouTube videos, for instance. I'm not as good at editing because it's such a long form content. It takes a lot of time. It's such a like, it's such a big, it's almost like building like this gigantic Lego mansion, all these pieces. And whereas short form content is very, it's good for my brain because it's so fast. and you
Right.
just have to just do it and get it out there, right? But whereas like the long form just takes longer because there's just it's longer, and
Yeah.
so I think that's why I've been much better at and more keen on, the short form content, even though I
Hmm.
do want to get more into long form. It's harder for me. Yeah.
I can relate. The editing part is
Mm,
brutal. And
mm.
when the GoPros first hit, I was just
Ugh,
like, oh
yeah.
yeah, I got that chesty. I'm like filming everything. And then you have all this content. It's
Yeah.
like, what do I
Yeah.
do with all this stuff? And then you start trying to, and next
Hours.
thing you know,
Yeah.
it's like I got 4 days and do like a 20-minute, thing. And
Hmm.
it's just like, yeah, I'm married. You try to stay married,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
So,
actually want to have like free time to spend with your loved ones and not have to sit there and edit in your free time. And yeah,
right.
it's a lot of work.
So
Yeah.
when
Great
these,
content.
go ahead.
I'd be sitting down, to edit some video, and it's just like I'm sweating. I'm just like, what is going on? I gotta walk away.
Yeah.
I gotta walk away from this.
Yeah, this
Uh,
is too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
so
But
when
I don't
these
know if,
when
oh,
these
go ahead.
ideas hit you,
Hmm.
do you have like a process? Do you have a
I do.
book, or do you
I
have like
do.
something like
Yeah.
just use your phone and notes or whatever? Or how do you because you said that ideas are aplenty, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
so
Hmm.
how do you manage all that?
Yeah, I like to use, there's an app called Trello. I don't know if either of you use it. Essentially, Trello, I don't know exactly like what they consider their platform, like an organization like platform, but they have a view where you essentially could add these cards. And so like a Kanban board. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
Okay,
but
yeah.
so and I've created in my Trello, you can have columns kind of like, and so I have one column that's just ideas. So anytime I think of an idea, like a general concept for a video, I'll put it as a card in that column. And
Hmm.
then I might sit down and say, okay, I like this idea. And so I'm gonna like workshop it a little more. And you can actually go into the card itself and expands. And so you can add um timeline on it. So I could say, hey, I want to film this on this day. I want to post it on this day. I can add like tags to it. So say I know it's a parody song, or say I know it's maybe for one of my sponsors. I can kind of tag it, give it little tags that I create. And
Hmm.
then in there you could add description. So sometimes I'll put script in there, or I'll if I hear a song and I'm like, oh, that's the audio. I like this audio. I'll paste it into. So basically, it just houses everything in that card that you can expand on. And then what you can do is when I know I want to film this particular idea, I'll drag it over to like the filming column. So okay, I'm filming now. And then I have an editing column. So okay, I'm editing this one now. And once it's posted, I'll shift it over to like the posted column.
Got
So
it.
kind of like I don't know which way you're seeing me, but kind of left
Right.
to right system. Because I am very visual, so it's nice to see those things as like actual things, and then being able to drag them very tactile, like it's almost like a post-it note, but like
Yeah.
yeah.
But you're
So
making
that's my
progress
system.
each with
Yeah.
each move, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then the ice box of all the ideas are just there. So if I'm ever like, I'm kind of, I don't know what I want to work on this week, or, like let me just kind of sift through. And I even have a tag that's just labeled quick win. It's something I know that's not going to take a lot of editing. It might be like a one take thing, and I already know that's what it's going to be. So I'll look at my quick wins, and be like, okay, let me
Hmm.
do something like this for this week. So just to know like what I want to be able to fit in, or so it's very helpful for that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's kind of my process.
So is there a schedule like you're sponsored by Specialized, right? Is your main sponsor
Specialized and stands, no
and
tubes.
stands. So do you have
Yeah.
agreements like
Hmm.
weekly, monthly? How does the agree like you said you had kind of had to
Mm.
create your agreements? Or is it just
Yeah.
like X number per year? Like they can buy 12 or 24 or 36
Right.
or whatever. Is it something like that?
Yeah, it all varies. So stands or so, specialized and stands are, technically, I guess like you would just call them like the typical sponsors where, they're on my website, things like that. I have product sponsors too. So I have like Hand Up gloves, for instance. I do work with them, and so I'm exclusive to their gloves. And I have like I have like my own like custom glove. So
Oh, cool.
they don't pay me like a sponsorship, but it's like a profit share. So I'll make a percentage off of those glove sales. So
Right.
that's like how we work. So there's like the profit sharing, then there's like the typical like traditional sponsorship. So with a brand like Specialized, it would just be like, hey, you're exclusive to our bikes, and this is kind of like the expectation of a certain amount of posts per month. But
Hmm.
it's usually, and like the chance of them being featured in my reels is pretty high because it's bikes. So like all the
Right.
bikes that are in the reels are Specialized. So it's pretty easy to hit that number. And then, with them, I also have certain like event requirements. I might have to go to a certain amount of events per year. With Stans, I did something a little bit different. So with Stans, their sponsorship allotted them like one reel per quarter. So, and that's just how I shaped that, you know, agreement with them to work
Hmm.
within like their budget. And it's also very different, right? Because specialized like a bike, you're going to see a bike probably in 90% of my reels.
Yeah.
Sealant, like including sealant is kind of hard. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
you have to be like, I have to be very intentional about what I make for them. So their agreement's a little bit different, but we make sure like, yeah, like once a quarter, I'm creating some sort of reel and we're collabing on it. And then, yeah, that's kind of how a lot of the sponsor agreements are. But then this last year, we've done a lot of sort of what I would just say are one-off projects. So base we base everything off of like for instance, like Dave's Killer Bread, I've worked with for the last 2 years. And usually it's like they want to do 3 reels within 6 months. And I basically have to come up with a concept, pitch them the concept. They say, that's a cool concept. And then I script it out. They approve the script. It's very much like a client, almost like design, like
Hmm.
creating a logo for a brand. It's like, it's very much this like very client related deliverable versus like a sponsorship. So like the one-off projects, I mean, we did about 30 this year. So it's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're actually now trying to I wouldn't say we're like totally flipping the switch, but we're trying to balance it out more so that we have more long-term sponsors, and then we could take on less one-off projects, if that makes
Right.
sense, for like 2025. Yeah. So yeah. It just
Yeah.
always changes too. Like every business needs something a little different. And so there's really no one size fits all. And, some brands that I've worked with or companies, they're nonprofits and I'm not gonna, structure something the same way that I would like REI or, like, so
Yeah.
there's differences there. And I try to be mindful of that. But yeah, it's definitely just very different per company. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the stands ones. Your pictures are just like, got a stands.
I like the one where you sprayed Tony in the face,
Thank
right?
you.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was.
There was one from last year. I don't know if you saw it, but it was, you both seem like you would have watched Wayne's World
Oh
Oh
when
yeah,
it
yeah.
was,
yeah,
oh, okay. So, okay. Just making sure that we're all on the same page here.
yeah.
But there's a scene in Wayne's World where, Garth, well, it was like the scene where like they're going back and forth, and Mike Myers is like, I don't care. He's like talking to what's his name? Rob Lowe's character, like the agent. And he's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care what they say. I don't want to take their money and sell out and all this stuff. But it keeps being this like commercial, and it's like
Uh-huh.
Excedrin. And then they pan to like, and then it's Pizza Hut, and then they pan to Garth, and Garth is like head to toe Reebok, right? It's so good. So like
Uh-huh.
I had said to my contact at Stans, I was like, I want to do like a spoof off of that.
Yeah.
And I did. I don't know if you saw it from last year, but I
Oh,
was
I don't think
essentially
so.
like, I played my own agent. So I had like the hair, and I was like, I don't care what you say, Jess. Like, they're your sponsors and you need to start plugging them into your content. And then it cuts back to me, and I'm like, the only, I don't care who you are. But and then it like zooms out and I'm like, the only thing I'm gonna be plugging is this wheel. Or I was like, is this tire with it? And it's just like the cheesiest.
Uh,
So I'm like cracking myself up. But
yeah.
those are the kinds of things that I like to do. And the
Yeah.
Yeah.
fact that like, they're totally on board with that. Like when as soon as I pitched it, they're like, yeah, that's awesome. Like they enjoy it and like the goofiness of it.
Right.
But yeah, like it's I like to just to play off of that kind of humor and stuff. So yeah, it's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. It
Living your
seems,
best life.
yeah, it seems
What's
like you'd be
that? Yeah.
really, yeah, really fun to ride with.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We have a good time. I love riding. It's
Right.
always a good time. Yeah, do you like to ride? I mean, well, Nevada City, Chris, is very, flowy, I'd say. Like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
Yeah.
some fun float, like, free ride kind of features out there.
Hmm.
But just
Yeah.
like flow.
Yeah.
Like
It seems
what do you
like a
like
lot
to
of
ride?
flow.
Yeah.
Pretty much all those trails right there,
Hmm.
along that Highway 20. So there's
Hmm.
Hoots and Scott's Flat
Yeah.
and like
Hmm.
Permagrin, and they just opened up a few more that I haven't had a chance to ride
Hmm.
um, there. But
Nice.
I have more of a road background, and there's just nowhere really to ride road here that I feel
Mm,
safe. Especially now that I'm in my
yeah.
50s. When I was in my 20s, I would just be like, whatever. But now I'm in my 50s, I'm all,
A little
oh.
more, yeah, cautious and yeah,
Yeah, for
road's
sure.
scary. I don't know how, like especially seeing how some people drive, it's like, um, but yeah. What about
Yeah.
you, Mike? Where do you like to ride?
Yeah, I was more into, I did a lot of mountain biking and, but now I'm old, I'm 58 and I don't see
Oh, you
so
guys are
well.
both using this as an excuse.
I used it first. I used it first.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do a lot of
Well, I'm in
road.
my 50s now.
Yeah. It happens when you get older, you become the cliche, right? So I do a ton of road and I do a
Yeah.
lot of gravel and
Hmm.
you know, mountain biking. We have a sales retreat coming up,
Oh,
December
cool.
4th through the 8th in Utah, and everybody on the sales team is mountain biking. So I am gonna be mountain biking on December 4th through the 8th. But what happens
Where in
is because
Utah?
uh good question.
Somewhere where
We've
you can
been
Right.
ride.
yeah, we've been
Yeah.
Yeah,
kicking around a
right.
couple different ones. I forget where we settled in on it. But
Nice.
one of the things is like my hand-eye coordination is not like it used to be. And so, and
Mm,
I raced downhill and stuff when I was younger and dual
yeah.
slalom and did all the extreme stuff, dirt jumping. And
Yeah.
then, yeah,
Dang.
it came to a point where I just kept wrecking all the time. And then I'd be
Mm,
off the bike for months. And so, anyway, the gravel bike kind of works for me because I still ride chunky stuff, but you have to go
yeah.
slower on a gravel bike, and it just kind of seems to
Hmm.
work better with
Yeah.
my
And
old man brain.
old man brain.
Uh,
Oh my
but
goodness.
that's
Yeah.
really cool that you're able to be
Yeah.
flexible enough to where you can work with a nonprofit and then you can also work with a big company like Specialized and kind of everybody in between too.
Yeah.
Do,
Yeah.
do you have now I asked about theater.
Mm.
Do you have any comedy in their background? Have you ever tried stand-up comedy or skit comedy or improv or anything like that?
I have not. Well, I think I mentioned earlier that I did one improv, like kind of workshop thing where I showed up and um, it was kind of like a intro to improv. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know that it was particularly awesome or anything. There was one person, which I don't know if either of you watched The Office.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
But there's like a scene where like Michael Scott is at an improv like class and he's basically the one who's like always pulling a gun and like and the whole thing with improv is you try to build off of what everyone creates, right? So it's yes and
Yeah.
when you have someone in the class that's like super disruptive and always like pulling the gun, always planting the bombs,
Yeah.
I literally had someone like that in my improv class. So it was kind of comical in itself, but no, I've never tried stand up, although I think that would be like really fun. I think that's something I could get into for sure. And But no, yeah, I have no theater background. I get people sometimes that write comments and they're like, you should write for a show or like a
Right.
comedy show or like SNL. I'm like, maybe I should. Maybe I should just write
Yeah.
for shows,
Yeah.
and but yeah, I don't have any acting background. And I think the thing that's interesting about that is, when you're seeing the content, it's pretty much how I am in real life.
Hmm.
And so it's one of the best compliments that I get from people who've known me before Instagram, right? Like some of my friends or even some of my closest, like best friends, when they see the content, they're just like, yeah, that's just you. That's just how you
Yeah.
are. And so I get,
Yeah.
like, so as much as it is acting at the end of the day, but it's like acting like myself, if that makes sense. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's not that, yeah, or yeah, I don't know. I could just like turn it on, or I don't know. It's an interesting thing. But yeah, I never did theater, and it makes me wonder, like, if I had, who would have known, where
Hmm.
I'd be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, just watching all the content, that's the thought that comes to mind. It's funny that you say that comedy would
Mhm.
be like
Yeah.
stand-up comedy would be fun. So I think to most people, they think of being getting up on
Yeah.
stage, that would be terrifying, right? Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be
yeah.
fun. I think because there's so many awkward, like embarrassing moments that like nothing can really, at this point, I'm just like, like
Uh-huh.
most of the internet at this point has seen me on a toilet. I'm just like, what else is there really more embarrassing to happen? And
Uh-huh.
so, Mike, you were saying you had the whole hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
I am not in my 50s. However, when I had been sick before our move, and my husband and I were in Pennsylvania, I was visiting my mom, and we were at a grocery store, and I think I was on the verge of getting sick, and I have a tell, and essentially my tell is that I lose all spatial awareness.
Oh.
So I opened the back of our SUV to like load groceries inside, and I have groceries. And for whatever reason, well, we have a Velocirack bike rack, and we
Oh.
have our tailgate set to only go up so high, or else it'll hit the rack. So it's only set up to go so far, but we didn't actually have the rack on there. Yet it still was set to this height. So keep that in mind. I
Hmm.
also had a hat on, so I'm going to load the groceries, and I whacked my head. I hit the door, the like hatchback, and it hit me. I hit it so hard that I fell down. And
Oh,
like
geez.
groceries are going everywhere. And the worst part was there were like 3 or 4 cart boys that were all gathered around the cart return area. And I hear this, I hear this one kid, he's like, "Whoa, did you guys see that lady?" I felt so old. I was like, oh my God. I'm laying on the ground. I'm like writhing. And Tony's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "I don't know." And then the one kid's like, ma'am, are you okay?"
Ma'am.
Yes. I was like, oh no, this is,
Oh no.
and there aren't many things that embarrass me anymore, but I was a little embarrassed in that moment. But like, so like stand up, I'm just like, how bad can it be? Like, what else is going to happen? That like I would
Yeah.
be embarrassed. Like, what, people don't laugh? Oh, like it's fine.
Well,
So
I used
yeah, I
to
think
get
stand
I
up would
used
be
to get a
cool.
similar thing. So my son, he's 30, and he's a
Okay.
pretty accomplished mountain biker, and a really high skilled dirt jumper. And so we would go
Nice.
when I still was dirt jumping, we would go to the place and we'd jump, and we'd hit all these jumps. And invariably there would always be this kid that felt the need to acknowledge that I could really ride pretty well for an old guy.
Ah.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I was,
nice.
yeah, and it was
Nice.
just like that last little part. If you could just leave that last little part off, things would
Could
be
ride
so
really
much
well for
better,
an old
But
guy.
yeah, got to qualify me. Or they call you sir. Wow,
Oh,
sir, that was
yeah,
really nice.
ma'am.
It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
That's
What can you
awesome.
do,
That's so funny.
Have you ever,
I,
this is kind of random, but have you ever seen the
hmm.
show Kill Tony?
No.
It's a YouTube show.
Oh, no, I
And
haven't. I'll have to
I've
write that
been
in.
telling Chris about it, but I've recently gotten
Okay.
into it, and it's kind of dark comedy, but people
Mhm.
you get on stage for 1 minute.
Oh my
You
gosh.
get 1 minute. And so, and people fail miserably. And then there are people that do really well. And
But it's
but
stand
both,
up, like
oh
stand up
yeah,
comedy. Oh my
you got
gosh.
1 minute to make people laugh. And so it's like the people that fail are really fun to watch because it's
Okay.
so uncomfortable, and they're you could just
Hmm.
see like them getting flush and
Yeah.
nervous and everything, and then the people that kill it, obviously that's really fun. But after they're done
Yeah.
with their minute, the host, he interviews them for extended interview, and it's just so fun. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
like the
yeah. Okay,
idea,
I'm gonna watch that. That's
if you
cool.
thought about ever getting up on stage, that would be, they just recently
Hmm.
did one at Madison Square Garden. They sold out Madison Square Garden, and some people are getting
What?
on stage for their very first time ever in front
At
of like,
Madison Square
yes,
Garden?
yes,
What? I
yes.
almost wonder too, like is there any like tryout period or
No.
like no? Oh,
They call it a bucket pool. So what they do is they have some
okay.
regulars. So there's like maybe 3 or 4 regulars, and then so they'll start the show. They have this bucket, and they'll pull somebody's name out of the bucket, and they're across the street at a bar. Like all these, there's like 200 people in this little
Oh my
bucket, 200
gosh.
pieces of
Okay.
paper, and they might pull like 8 or 9 on one given night. So everybody's at the bar. They go get the guy, but bring him over, a guy or gal, and
Oh my
oh
gosh.
my gosh, it's so funny. Yeah. It's really
Oh,
it's a lot of fun. But it's pretty
okay, I'm
dark
gonna
though. It's pretty dark humor. I mean, like,
I like
yeah.
dark humor. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't bring your sensitive pants, you know.
Yeah. No
Yeah,
sensitive pants.
that's right.
Wow.
Yeah. But
That's the
Okay.
that's the longest minute ever, right?
yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm sure it's right.
Yeah. That's a lot of
Okay.
pressure though. You think about it, like to make people laugh in 1 minute. And in one sense you think
Yeah,
like, wow, 1 minute doesn't seem like long enough to really
right.
get a story off. But then the other side, when you see somebody really floundering, a minute is a very long time.
Do you know when it's going to go bad pretty quickly, or do you feel like when you're watching, you could
It's
tell like the people that are going to be good, you're like, oh, that's okay, this person's they know what they're doing, or you know?
yeah, it's kind of
Oh,
surprising. Sometimes they'll flounder at
okay.
first and then they have a big finish and
Hmm.
it's just like, oh shit,
Okay.
nailed it,
That's probably what I would do. I probably flounder a little bit and then hopefully have
Uh-huh.
a really good finish,
Right.
you know, but
It feels like I would have a lot of anxiety. If you ever watched a show and someone's messing, and you're just like, oh, I'm this is hard to
yeah,
watch. You're like,
biting
oh
your
man,
Yeah.
fingernails
right?
off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're
And
messing up.
and the guy who hosts it, he's like a roast battle guy. So he just roasts
Oh,
people all the time. So part of the interview is you getting roasted by this guy with
oh
this
man.
yeah, anyway. It's
To
yeah,
Mm.
think
check
on
it
your
out if you get there.
feet, I will. I'm going to check it out. To think on
Yeah.
your feet like that is pretty amazing. And do you know, do you know the guys from IFHT, the Mahalo My Dude guys, Jason
No.
Lucas and Matt Dennison? They've
Mm-mm.
done like some of their YouTube video, like parody music videos they've done, or like I Only Ride Park, or they did Fur to Girls with
Okay.
Michaela Gatto. So they filmed that.
I think I did see that. I
Anyway.
only ride park. I think I did see that.
Yes, or
Yeah.
the I'm Faster Than You. That was another one of their music videos they did. That was
Okay.
really funny. I've
Yeah.
done a few collabs with them too. We just did one together. We did to It's Tricky, but we changed it to It's Grippy. We were in Whistler to one of the rock slabs. And
Nice.
I pitched it to them because they're based out of Vancouver. And so
Yeah.
I pitched it to them like, hey guys. And the reason I know them, the whole reason I'm bringing this whole story up is because they reached out to me last like holiday season. They did a YouTube video of like I don't know if you've seen Jimmy Kimmel's like mean tweets or mean
Hmm.
and it's like famous people reacting to like mean tweets. Well, they essentially did the same thing, but they did mean comments. And so mountain bike influencers react to mean comments. And so how they did it was, and they wanted us to react like natural, like they wanted it like an authentic reaction to these comments. So I had this envelope that I didn't want to that I couldn't open. And I had Tony like film, but it was hard because to think off the cuff like that, like with my
Yes.
ideas, I have time to really think on it and really workshop it and like fine tune. But on the spot, improv was super hard to react to these comments, you know?
Uh-huh.
But that was like a good, kind of practice run with like, okay, let's see how good I am on off the cuff, you know?
Uh,
But yeah,
that's a
that was a
cool
fun.
concept.
Yeah, it
Were the
was good.
comments negative or were they just comments? Do you remember?
Most of the comments are pretty negative, or they're like I think one of them was like a dig on like because I wear a lot of flannel.
Hmm.
And it was honestly not even that bad of a burn, but I was kind of like, it was just really silly. There weren't luckily that many bad, super mean comments, but some of the other creators got really, really really mean comments. But I mean, they also probably have bigger YouTube followings, you know.
Right.
But yeah, it was fun to kind of just like, you know, combat that stuff with humor and just authentic reactions to those things from all these creators. Super fun, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So with that, with regard to comments, I mean, I know,
Mm,
how do you, I mean, do you engage or do you read the comments? I mean, like I have a buddy of mine, he's like, oh, I try not to read the comments, you know. Um, but I mean, he's not like super big, but he's got a pretty good following. But you know, sometimes comments could be really nice and positive, and then other
yeah.
times they're just they really strike a nerve or whatever. How do you
Yeah.
manage that?
Yeah. In the beginning, when I was first growing, my channel, I would respond to every single comment. I would make it a point to like respond to people. And I think that
Right.
was, one of the things that really helped me grow was I actually responded to people. And in those beginning days, you don't, I feel like you're not getting many trolls
Hmm.
or things until you hit a certain point, and then you're like, okay, there's like a clear point where you're like, all right, this person's just like, they're a troll or whatever. And,
Yeah.
I'm very lucky, knock on wood, I'm very lucky. Like, I don't get that many negative comments. And at this point, too, in the game, I'll engage with like in the first couple hours of posting a video, and I might go back the next day and engage a little bit, but I'm
Hmm.
probably not reading every comment at this point. I just don't have time.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and in the past, like maybe in the last like year or two, like year, if I've gotten there might be a few negative comments that might have like got under my skin or something. And I find that the best thing is to just not even engage or just like block the person if they're like super inappropriate or negative. Which haven't been many, maybe like a couple. Like one time there was a guy that was like, just like every woman can't do a bunny hop. And that got under my skin because he was attacking all women.
Oh
So I was
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but I was like, like I was just like, So
Uh,
in those moments, like he wasn't personally attacking me, he was attacking all women. So I was getting
yeah.
like upset about it.
Yeah.
And there are times I get a little heated and I'll get a little sassy. There was a guy, oh, I don't know if you saw, I posted a reel a couple months ago where it was like, it was a trend where it was like posing with blank, like men pose with fish, like
Oh right.
after they catch fish, but I did with bike parts.
Hmm.
And I had an old set of rotors, so I was holding the rotors. I knew right away. I was like, people
Yeah.
are going to comment about me touching the rotors and contaminating the rotors, da, 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 right? But like, these were decommissioned rotors, and
Uh,
there was a guy on there, and he's like, just admit you're wrong. And I was like, but the best part about that whole comment thread is I didn't even have to do anything.
right.
My followers, they go in, they're just like, dude, like it's just so funny.
Yeah.
Like and I just let it happen. And I just like sit back and I'm like,
Yeah.
just
Right.
let everyone else
Nice.
argue it out. But it's
Uh,
just so funny because like, just yeah, people will get that way. And I just at some point, you can't, let it, you know, put you in a it's hard because it's hard to get a negative comment, but then I remind myself of all the like positive comments, and which is the majority, right? Like
right.
majority of comments are people being like, thanks for bringing a smile to my day, or thanks for making me laugh. And
Nice.
like, so that's what I try to lean in more so on than the negative stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I know like, you know, I've done like these different events over the years. We did some mountain bike races that we put on, and there's so many people say really nice things to you, but like you always remember those negative, it's like you can have
Mm.
50
Well, yeah, I don't know what
positive
that
things and then
is.
somebody
The
just says
one
something, and it's kind
criticism.
of true. There's like they got a little
It is.
scintilla of truth in there, but they're
And
really
you're just
taking it
like,
too far. Maybe that's what it
yeah,
is. Like, oh,
yeah,
maybe that's what touches a nerve. Because if it's just total bullshit, then it's just like you don't even know what you're talking
yeah,
about. But
Yeah, like when
uh,
we used to own our store, right? You get like a
yeah,
Yelp. We have, obviously you have a Yelp page, right? And people just kind
yeah.
of lay into it, and you're just like, oh, it's so hard not to
Oh, it's
respond,
so
right?
hard.
Yeah, I just find it better just to not respond.
let
Yeah.
it die.
I
Right.
know.
Yeah,
It's
just
so,
yeah,
I'm
right,
so
whatever.
sorry you feel that way. You know,
Right.
it's
Right.
and
Totally.
Yeah.
there are times people bring valid things to the conversation too. Like if it's something I hadn't thought of. Like I made a reel. This is like maybe in the first year I started doing things and having businesses pay me. There was a local restaurant in Bentonville that wanted to work with me, and I was really stoked. And we did this whole thing where I was like, um, some people ride for the challenge, some people ride for this. And I was like, I ride. And then it's like, and I walk into this restaurant and there's like a giant table of food, just like
Yeah.
pizza and all this stuff. And I was like, so that I can eat whatever I want. And, there was a woman that was like, hey, like, and she was very nice in the comments, and was like, hey, like, I just wanted to say like this kind of thinking can trigger people who have disordered eating. And it was a good conversation. I had said
Hmm.
like, thank you so much for like bringing this to my attention. Like I didn't even think of it from that perspective. And, I think I even pinned the comment because I wanted other people to see it. And it's just, there are times where criticism is good and you can't just, like not everything I do is going to be, like, like I just think that's good to see people's perspectives from that view and the way she approached it too. She wasn't like, hey, this is, she wasn't mean about it. She was just being, like bringing it to my attention. So I thought it was a good conversation. And yeah, like I think there are moments like that are like, okay, yeah, totally get it. I was just thinking I was making a funny video and it struck a chord with her. And so, and there might be other people. So I wanted to address it. But yeah, there are things like that like I appreciate when people bring it up and it's
Hmm.
not, yeah. But then
But
yeah,
there
when
is,
people are just jerks,
right. There is some truth in
yeah,
that though. Like so
yeah,
many cyclists, you know, they they have eating disorders. They
mm,
like what they like. They want to eat a bunch of stuff, and they can get away with it because they're riding their bike so much. And
mm,
I remember this is years ago. I went to Interbike, and I got a
mm,
chance to meet Eddie Merckx. And Eddie's now a big, heavy set man. And he said, "I still eat like a cyclist." And he grabbed his stomach and like shook
yeah,
his belly, and we all kind of
uh-huh,
had this
uh-huh,
big laugh. But I think there's some
yeah,
truth in that. I think that
hmm,
you know, people go hard. And if you're a
yeah,
cyclist that goes hard on your bike, a lot of times you can justify whether it be food or alcohol or whatever. Not that it's
hmm,
right, but I think that
yeah,
um, a lot of people are obsessive. They have addictive personalities and things like that. And a
hmm,
lot of endurance athletes fall into that
yeah,
category. And so
hmm,
I think there's a lot of truth in that post. But yeah, you can also understand how
hmm,
people might get triggered for sure. But
Mhm.
totally.
I think there's always going to be, I feel like yeah, I'm starting to sound like an old person now, but I mean, there's a lot of sensitivities out there.
Yeah,
There's so many
yeah.
sensitivities now. I mean, I
There's
grew up,
definitely, yeah.
yeah, it was just so different. I mean, people just didn't care back in the day. There was no such
Yeah.
thing as being mindful or your mental health. I'm not saying it was right,
Mm,
but I think
hmm.
sometimes, you're forced in these
Right.
situations where you got to just kind of suck it up and deal with it. And
Hmm.
yeah, so that's not really the threads nowadays. It's more like, oh, we need to be respectful and mindful of their mental health and give them their space. And I think that's um, the kind way to handle it. But also, I think there's probably some merit in the other side of it too, where you just learn
Oh,
how to
totally.
deal with
Yeah.
stuff and you're more equipped to deal with adversity when it comes your way.
Hmm.
Because a lot of adversity does come your way, no matter what you're doing. If you're just making videos on
Oh,
YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what do you prioritize more? Is there more is it about the Reels or the YouTube? And where do you fall on that? Because the YouTube, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the content's much longer on YouTube, so I'd imagine
Hmm.
that it's more costly, more time consuming,
Yeah.
a lot more involved. So where does your
My
business model take
priority,
you?
yeah, my business model, my priority has always been the short form content with, Instagram primarily being the platform,
Hmm.
but all that to say, YouTube is the only platform that really incentivizes creators to, make content. And so, this last year, I really wanted to start to like kind of shift into doing more YouTube. But the hard part about all of that was I had brands wanting to work with us. And obviously they want to get in front of my audience, which the larger audience is on Instagram. So it's like, okay, well, we want to do more of this, but we have to do this because, like we need to be on Instagram to kind of keep those wheels rolling. And that's
Hmm.
where a lot of my audience is. And so, I mean, I I would like to make more consistent long form content. And I try to put stuff on YouTube Shorts and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, but it does seem like there are a lot of creators on YouTube, and I've just kind of been like on the sidelines, like kind of watching, like people are starting to leave, like creators are like, like I think BCPOV is kind of like, I think giving up the channel. Like there's people that are like, it's just too much, or just YouTube creators in general are getting really burnt out. And so I think I'm just trying to be realistic with next year of, what I can really produce. I think taking on one-off projects will be helpful in that. So that's kind of one of the other reasons why we want to focus on the longer term partners.
Hmm.
Because then we'll have more time to make the long form. But yeah, right now it's primarily Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, to your point that you were saying earlier, right? It's harder to do, the editing portion of
Hmm.
it. It's a lot
Yep.
more work,
Involved.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, versus like,
Yeah.
I mean, clearly on your Instagram, it's like you're having so much fun. It's like it just
Hmm.
screams like that's,
Hmm.
where
Yeah.
you're at. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where everybody can really easily identify with you,
Yeah.
with those
It's
short clips, and it's just fun, and you get a little
yeah.
chuckle. It's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the
So
rest and for the ADH crowd, it's just like that's all we need.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Quick
yeah.
scroll,
Wait, I got to watch something for
um,
7 minutes on YouTube. I don't know if I can handle that.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
I know
so
I
totally.
could
long.
barely like that's I think like with having ADHD, you're just like, man, you can create like I will say the stuff I have created on YouTube, the longer videos, there was one that took it. I actually wrote a blog post about it. It took me
Oh
a
man.
year to get out.
Wow.
And I had a whole blog post about why it took me a year. And that
Oh
was
my
even before
gosh.
I knew I had ADHD, but now I should go back and be like edited also.
Yeah.
But it was a super fun like concept. I had this interview series I wanted to do with people in the industry called Between Two Berms.
Oh, I've
And
seen it.
oh, you
Oh
saw my one with Rich.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. And
Yes.
I loved like digging into him, like, because I,
Oh
I also
yeah.
know him. I know him personally, so I feel like I don't know that I could have done that to anybody, but like with Rich, I was just like, I'm going for it, man. He's like, go for it, and then
Yeah.
we had our race at the end where like literally I hired a buddy who does like the FPV drone and like followed us and like it just took it was so long to edit together, but when it finally came together, I was like super proud of it. Like I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
like I was really proud of the edit. I was really proud of it. And I will say, like, I got more like as much as I'm proud of all the stuff I put on Instagram too. It was different. It was like, this whole year of editing like certainly there was keep in mind it's not like it was a straight year. It was like I edited it for a little while and then I stopped for months,
Yeah.
came back to it, oh, stopped again, kind of that was the journey. But I have another one that I'm editing with the
Oh.
CEO of Crank Brothers. I don't know if either of you know Gas.
Mm-mm.
Gaspar, yeah. He's the CEO of Crank Brothers, and I filmed it while we were in Whistler at Crankworks. So At this
Oh.
rate, it'll be done by July, I believe. But it's going to be a really good one. Like I'm really excited for it. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
but I love to do more of those. But I think in that case, it'd be like having a team. It's like, okay, let's like I
Right.
can script it out. I can think of all the things I want to ask this person. I can literally I know what the concept is and what the script is, everything. I just need someone to like edit all those things together who's
Yeah.
like maybe more involved and so like Tony helps me a little bit, but he's more like he also works full time again. So it's like I think I just need to find somebody who's willing to like get in the weeds and who
Hmm.
likes editing. I don't want to make anyone edit who like doesn't like it.
Do you think you could let go of control like that though? Like, will you
Oh
create all
yeah.
this content and you just let somebody else like, hey, mash all this up and make it cool, and you'd be
Hmm.
okay? You wouldn't have to like micromanage at
Yeah.
all? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually paid someone to do, there was another YouTube segment that I did called Get Over It. And it's all
Hmm.
about like getting over obstacles on the bike. And there were two that we filmed. And I hired a buddy of ours, Ryan, who edited those two videos. And it was nice because like I just gave like after the first run, just gave a little bit of feedback. And then, I just think with the between two berms, it's so back and forth. It's just there's a lot of like small little like nuance things that I know I don't want to miss. So that's what's
Hmm.
hard. I think it's hard to relinquish control on that one for sure.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to have someone there who gets like someone who's like on the same page who like gets it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a next step of like trying to find somebody to help out on in that capacity.
Hmm. So does Specialized ever come to you with like, are they collaborative? Like, do they say, hey, we got the launch of this new whatever Kenevo SL, and we would really
Mhm.
like it if you could maybe weave this into some kind of cool, fun thing? Or is it more like just do your thing and.
Yeah, it's mostly that. It's mostly kind of do your own thing. This last year I had kind of a switch between my previous like contact, like my rep, I guess, had transitioned out of her role. So then I got kind of passed around. So I think I have two people I talk to now at Specialized, and I think going forward, probably in 2025, it'll be a little bit more of the first kind of thing that you mentioned of like, hey, we're going to drop this. We want to build some content around it, like to get people amped up about it. So I think it'll be a little bit more of that. But this past year has been a lot of the latter, just like, hey, just we want you making the things you like to make on our bikes. And I'm like, okay, you know. So
Yeah,
it's been a good
Nice.
relationship for that reason. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
been
that's
great.
cool.
Yeah.
So, do you have any big plans for the future? Like any, I mean, you
Hmm.
mentioned the Crankworks project or Crank
Oh
Brothers
yeah,
project,
Crank Brothers.
but do you have any like, is it travel or is it, what's
Yeah.
what's ahead for you guys?
Yeah, last year we did a ton of travel in the summer, and I think this upcoming year try to be a little bit more intentional with some of that. I try to go somewhere international every year. Like last year, we went to Mexico. This upcoming year, I'm thinking maybe Ecuador to ride.
Oh, cool.
And we've worked with different companies in the past, just like for trips. Like last year, we worked with Oaxaca Bike Expeditions. They're out of Oaxaca in Mexico, and so that's been super fun because it's like I love traveling, and being able to combine like travel and bringing your mountain bike somewhere different is really cool.
Yeah.
Um, I'd love to go. My mom's whole side of the family is from South Korea. That's where I was made, actually.
Okay.
And and I would love to bring a mountain bike there and just like try to go for a trail ride. I just think it'd be so funny because it's
Awesome.
such an interesting like culture there. Like they do have a lot of people that like love mountain culture, and so they wear like their like little windbreaker suits and they'll go from the city in the valley and then just like hike up into the mountains and do super fun stuff. And the mountain there, it's very mountainous in South Korea. So I think there could be some really fun content to be made doing something like that. Like going to see my family, going to like mountain bike there. that could
Mhm.
be unique that I don't feel like anyone's done, you know?
Yeah.
That's always been like in the back pocket of like, I want to do that at some point. I don't know when that is, but I want to do that. And then yeah, I think like, like we mentioned the whole YouTube stuff. I would love to do more like just sketch comedy, but mountain
Hmm.
biking,
Yeah.
and in a longer form. I've had this idea for a very long time of doing like mountain bike Jeopardy
Uh-huh.
and like having people come on or like playing multiple roles or like I don't know how it would work, but like even just thinking of the categories like mountain bike brands you can't pronounce,
Uh-huh.
or
Yes.
what is Thule? I don't know. I don't know.
All
What is
right.
Kuat?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just like funny stuff to be done there. And
Oh
there's a lot of
yeah.
stuff like that I'm like, okay, like there's some fun stuff to be done. Once again, it's like the execution part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do think having less one-off projects this year will be really nice to kind of have more creative freedom and time to do those things. So yeah, that's kind of the plan.
Yeah.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, listen, I feel like we should probably let you go. But it's been a lot of fun getting to know you, and
Super
like I said, we
fun. We
enjoy
got a
your videos.
ride.
But yeah, oh
Yeah,
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 we got a
yeah,
definitely.
ride.
we
Yes.
absolutely
Where are we
should.
going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I actually head up that way for work because I'm in Livermore, so East Bay.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not that
yeah.
far away. Yeah, maybe we
Yeah,
can connect
Livermore.
for a mountain bike ride. I'm leaving on the
Let's
4th through
do
the
it.
8th.
Okay.
But how long are you guys going to be in NorCal again?
I think we're gonna be here till end of February, so we'll be here a
Oh
while.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
So
cool.
it'll be
That would be awesome.
super fun to connect and go get a ride in somewhere.
Yeah, to go
But
hoop trail or something.
Yeah.
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 Have you done
Yeah.
hoops?
I is that if you're like the little market,
It's
Chris?
like it's
Hmm.
right next
It's
to the
on
market.
it's next
On
to
the
the
left
market
side. Yeah,
on the
on
left
the left
side
side. Yep.
of the road.
Yes.
Correct.
Then yes,
Yeah.
I have done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have done that.
Super
Super
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, they were just getting ready to tear that down. So they had a
What?
big
Wait,
yeah, they were I guess it was equestrians were making a big stink about it.
Oh
And
wow.
they had this
the
big
horse people.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Shocker.
Yeah, I
You
know,
can do a video
right?
about them, right?
I
Yeah.
Um
wanted to do a video about horse people, but instead of it being like a person on a horse, it would be like a centaur. Kind of. Because we always we're always like horse people. I can just
Yeah.
imagine someone being like horse people, and then like what they
Yeah.
envision is a centaur. Anyway, go on.
yeah. So they had a big protest, a bunch of riders showed up and did a big ride and they basically put off tearing it down. They want to take out the berms
Oh,
and it's like,
Oh
man,
man.
it's like that ride that's such a fun uh trail to ride. So it'd be
It's a
so
hoop.
horrible.
equestrians are allowed to ride on, take horses on it?
Well, I don't know if they ride on that, but Hoots crosses a lot of other trails at times.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that's the case, but the
Oh
community kind
man.
of stood up and did a good job of at least putting it off for now. So
Wow.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
good. Dang.
Yeah.
let's do it before it
Yeah.
goes.
Yes, that would be awesome. Let's
Yeah.
sync up
Very
about that
cool.
because we'd be totally game to come up and ride. It'd be super awesome to have a good
Yeah.
ride sesh with y'all.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. All
Awesome.
right.
It was
Well,
so great meeting you.
yeah, likewise.
yeah. Pleasure getting to know you more. That's for sure. That's awesome.
Same.
And it's Jess the Maker, right?
Just the
On
maker.
Instagram and
Instagram.
YouTuber.
Yep.
Where else are you?
I'm on the TikTok.
You
Not to
are
be
on the
confused with
TikTok.
TikToks. Yeah. Yeah, mostly, yeah. And then my website's just justthemaker.com.
Awesome.
Ah,
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, Jess. Thank you so much for joining
Yes.
us.
yeah.
And
Thanks,
Chris,
Jess.
thank you guys so much. It's awesome.
all
Hope you have a
right.
great Turkey Day.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
too.
as well.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Peace.
I didn't want to say, okay, is